My parents canceled my 18th birthday party at the last minute because my golden sister threw a tantrum when her trip got canceled. But they forgot to uninvite someone, and it didn't end well for them. I turned 18 a few days ago, but sadly my parents decided to cancel the party just hours before it was supposed to happen, all because my spoiled older sister demanded it. Honestly, she wasn't even supposed to be home for my birthday, and I was thrilled about that. But unfortunately, the day she was supposed to leave, severe storms in the Midwest caused all flights to be canceled. She had planned to go to New York City 3 days before my birthday with a group of her friends. With the trip postponed, she was furious. That meant my parents were walking on eggshells around her because they absolutely didn't want to upset her further. She's the golden child of the family, after all. On the morning of my birthday, she demanded that my party be canceled. Her reasoning? If she couldn't have fun, then I shouldn't either. Predictably, my parents didn't even hesitate before agreeing. They immediately sent out messages to everyone who had been invited, calling off the celebration. I only found out much later in the afternoon. I was waiting patiently for the guests to arrive, but no one showed up. By 7 p.m., I finally asked my parents why nobody had come, and that's when they admitted that they had canceled the party without even bothering to tell me. Their excuse? My sister was too upset, and it wouldn't be right to celebrate while she was in that state. That's when I completely lost my temper. I started yelling at my parents because the situation was so unfair. They've always treated my sister and me differently, catering to her every need while expecting me to constantly compromise and adjust. I had put up with it for years, but this was too much. This was supposed to be my big 18th birthday party, one my parents had insisted on planning. They invited all my friends and family for a big celebration, only to cancel it without telling me, all because my sister was whining about a canceled trip. A trip, by the way, that was canceled for completely valid reasons outside anyone's control. To make matters worse, my parents lied to everyone. They told the guests the party was canceled because I had supposedly gotten sick suddenly. They even asked everyone not to text me, claiming I had a migraine and needed rest. That's why no one messaged me, and I didn't find out what was going on until much later. As soon as I learned the truth, I started arguing with my parents. I was furious. Who wouldn't be? Yet, all they seemed to care about was the noise I was making. They were terrified my sister might wake up from her nap. That made me even angrier, and I didn't hold back. Eventually, my sister came downstairs, annoyed at the commotion. She immediately took my parents' side, saying they hadn't done anything wrong. She admitted that she told them to cancel the party because she didn't want anyone celebrating while she was so upset. She said it would be heartless to party under such circumstances. Then she had the nerve to call me selfish and spoiled for not understanding her feelings. Hearing that after everything she'd done made me so angry that I started cursing at her. In the heat of the moment, I grabbed her hair and tried to shake her. Things got physical, and my parents had to pull us apart. In the middle of all this chaos, we didn't even hear the doorbell ring. When the shouting finally stopped, my parents opened the door to find my grandfather standing outside. My paternal grandfather is a very respected figure in our family. Everyone, including my parents, is a little scared of him. So, seeing him at the door was not good news for them. As soon as he walked in, he demanded to know why there was so much yelling and swearing. He looked straight at me for answers since I was the one making the most noise. Normally, I wouldn't tell anyone about how my parents treat me because I think it's pointless. But this time, I didn't hold back. I told my grandfather everything about the favoritism my sister receives, how my party was canceled without my knowledge, and how this wasn't a one-time thing but something I've endured my entire life. I explained that this incident was my breaking point and that I couldn't keep tolerating it. As I finished, I could see the shock on my grandfather's face. He looked absolutely furious, and within seconds he started scolding my father. That's when I found out things I hadn't known before. It turns out my grandfather had been financially supporting my parents for years. They had been struggling to keep their business afloat and provide for our family, so he had been sending them money every month. Even the party they had planned for me before canceling it had been entirely funded by my grandfather. He told my parents they had deeply disappointed him by treating me this way. He said it was clear from my behavior that I had been traumatized by their favoritism toward my sister. My parents stayed silent, but my sister, being as clueless as ever, tried to argue with him. She claimed the only reason she asked for the party to be canceled was that she was heartbroken over her canceled trip and thought it was cruel of me to celebrate while she was suffering. My grandfather wasn't having any of it. He told her she was the epitome of selfishness for demanding the cancellation of my 18th birthday party just because of a trip she could take at a later time. He reminded her that the world doesn't revolve around her, a concept that seemed entirely new to her. Her argument only made him angrier, and he eventually told my parents he would no longer provide them with financial support. He also turned to me and said I could pack my things and move in with him if I wanted, as it was clear my parents weren't doing right by me. My parents were stunned, but the only thing they seemed truly upset about was losing my grandfather's financial support. They didn't even react when he said I could move in with him. They were too busy trying to argue with him to reverse his decision. So, I didn't waste any time. While my parents were busy trying to negotiate with him, I went upstairs, packed my things, and left with my grandfather. I didn't even glance back as we drove to his house. On the way, he apologized for everything I'd been through and mentioned that he should have made this decision a long time ago. I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but I'm just happy to be with him now. The only people unhappy about this arrangement are, of course, my parents. They've been trying relentlessly to contact me. I haven't blocked them, but I haven't responded to their calls or messages either. I've read all their texts, though. They keep apologizing, saying they never meant to hurt me. They claim they prioritized my sister because she's more sensitive, and her feelings are fragile. They also admitted they thought I was strong enough to handle being overlooked. Let's be honest, my sister is 5 years older than me. At 23 years old, she should have been the one mature enough to handle sharing our parents, not me. I didn't believe a word my parents said. It was clear they were only acting this way because the May wanted me to return and convince my grandfather to keep supporting them financially. All I wanted from them was a genuine apology, but that never came. This morning, I finally told my dad to stop messaging me. I told him I knew they only cared about my grandfather's financial support and that I didn't need their fake apologies. I was done with them. Canceling my birthday party without consulting me was the final straw, and I had no intention of going back. Instead of apologizing, my dad responded, admitting that both he and my mom had treated me unfairly. He said they were ready to make it up to me and would do anything to fix things. I saw an opportunity and told them the only way I'd consider returning home, and even talking to my grandfather about supporting them again, was if they promised my sister would no longer live with us. After all, she's been working for the past 2 years and should have saved enough to move out by now. I didn't think I was being unreasonable, but my parents found my condition ridiculous and cruel. Now I'm the villain in their eyes for saying I'd only come back if my sister moved out. People have been asking why I never told anyone in my family about how my parents treated me. Honestly, it's because most of it felt insignificant at the time. For example, I was always told to leave the last slice of pizza or any leftover food for my sister if she liked it. Only if she didn't want it was I allowed to have it. Similarly, I wasn't allowed to buy or wear clothes she liked. My parents said she had her own personal style, and I shouldn't copy it. That meant I couldn't wear anything trendy. Most of the time, I had to wear her hand-me-downs since we were the same size. I rarely got to buy new clothes because my parents thought it was unnecessary. Small things like that may seem insignificant, but over time, they add up. Still, I didn't think it was worth bringing up to my relatives. And even if I had, I doubted anyone would think those reasons were serious enough to intervene or offer me a way out. So I stayed quiet because I knew speaking up would only upset my parents further. As for my grandfather, I've said he's an imposing figure because literally everyone in the family admires and respects him. Back in his day, he was one of the best lawyers and won many difficult cases. He's extremely upright, morally disciplined, and incredibly wealthy. It's undeniable that the entire family admires him. If I had wanted, I could have talked to him about how my parents were treating me. However, until last year, he was busy taking care of my grandmother, who was in the final stages of her life. He had so much to deal with that I didn't want to burden him with my trivial complaints about my parents. After my grandmother passed away, he was grieving. I didn't think it was worth mentioning anyway. Now that he has offered to help, I'm truly grateful. We've always had a good relationship, so it's not surprising that he's offered to let me live with him until I go to university. He's even told me he'll cover all my expenses until I start working. Update 1. So, I've decided to stick with the condition I imposed on my parents. Obviously, I have no intention of living with them again, even if they kick my sister out. I just want to see if they actually go through with it. That's the only way I'll know if they're serious about wanting me back, or if they think my sister is more important than my grandfather's financial support. I haven't told my grandfather about this condition. To be fair, though, there were things he kept from me as well, which I only recently discovered. I think it's only fair. I'm referring to the fact that my grandfather knew all along that my parents didn't really want me, but he never did anything about it. In fact, he didn't even know why my parents favored my sister so much, especially since she didn't have any particular qualities to justify their partiality. It was my grandfather who recently explained the real reason to me. My parents had originally planned to have only one child. But 3 years after my sister was born, my mother became pregnant with me. They planned to terminate the pregnancy, but my father made the mistake of telling my mother's parents about it. My maternal grandparents insisted that if they had been blessed with another child, it would be wrong to reject that blessing. They convinced my parents to have me. Unfortunately, my maternal grandparents had a terrible car accident when my mom was 8 months pregnant. They fought for their lives for a couple of weeks, but eventually passed away from their injuries. My mother was devastated and experienced a kind of psychotic breakdown while still pregnant, blaming me for bringing bad luck into her life. She had to be institutionalized for a few weeks. When she returned, she was somewhat better, but my parents subconsciously began to regret letting the pregnancy continue. They fully intended to put me up for adoption after I was born. However, this time, my paternal grandparents firmly opposed the idea, calling them ridiculous and not allowing them to go through with the adoption. My grandfather told me all of this when I confronted him about a comment he made while taking me back home. He said he should have known better and made this decision a long time ago. Now I understand what he meant, and I agree. He definitely should have done so. Now that I know the real reason my parents treated me differently, I know I'll never go back to them. The way I'm treating them now is entirely justified. They punished me for years over something that wasn't my fault. At least I'm better than that. I'm holding them accountable for things that truly are their fault. I'm still a little upset with my grandfather for not telling me the truth earlier, but I understand that these things are difficult to talk about, especially when I was younger. He's the only person I can trust right now, so I'm trying not to stay mad at him. Update 2. It's been a week and 4 days since I moved out of the house. My parents have been texting me, trying to convince me to reconsider the condition I proposed, but I haven't responded. I didn't think it was necessary to talk to them until they made a decision. For the past 3 days, they haven't called or texted, so I thought they had finally given up. But today, as I left school, I saw my sister standing outside. I immediately got a bad feeling about it, so I asked one of my male friends to walk me home. He plays football, so he's pretty big, and I knew that if my sister tried anything, he'd be there to protect me. We've been friends for a long time, so I trust him completely, and he knows everything about my situation, including the issues with my family. He agreed to accompany me. My sister followed us silently, which was giving me chills. Halfway home, I decided to turn around and confront her, asking what exactly she was trying to do. She said she didn't want to discuss these things in front of a stranger, but I told her I didn't even want to talk to her at all. She then started saying how stressed and upset our parents were, and blamed it all on me and my behavior. She added that yesterday, our parents told her I wouldn't be coming home or asking my grandfather to support them again unless she was kicked out of the house. She had come to confront me because she thought I was being extremely unfair, I thought it was ridiculous that she even wanted to argue about this. So I told her, "If I can't be happy, then neither can you." That's exactly the logic she used to cancel my party once, and I figured it should apply to her too. I turned to continue walking home, but she started yelling at me, calling me a horrible person. I didn't even bother responding or turning around. I just kept walking with my friend and made a rude gesture toward her. Apparently, that gesture enraged her, because the next thing I knew, she attacked me, and I was on the ground. I had my backpack on, so I could feel its weight along with her on my back. Thankfully, my friend had my back, literally. Within seconds, I felt her being lifted off me. When I managed to stand up and brush myself off, I saw that my friend had her in a one-handed grip and hadn't even broken a sweat. I was definitely right to ask him to walk me home, especially since I've always known my sister has violent tendencies. I was furious that she thought she could attack me and get away with it. So I walked up to her, slapped her hard, and told her that if she tried anything like that again, I'd report her to the police. With all the trouble she's already caused for our dear parents, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't appreciate even more drama. Even so, she had the audacity to keep arguing with me. But after that slap, my friend and I just kept walking, and she didn't follow us anymore. When I got home, I told my grandfather everything. He was about to call the police, but I told him it wasn't even worth it. She's just a loser, and I'm pretty sure she's already learned her lesson. Finally, I told my grandfather about the condition I set for my parents. I thought he might be upset, but instead, he laughed with me. He thought it was clever and agreed that my parents definitely deserved to be treated that way. So that was that. While I feel a little sore from being pushed to the ground, it felt good to finally slap my sister. It was well-deserved and long overdue. Now, I just hope my parents and my sister take this as a lesson and leave me alone. Update 3. It's been almost a month since I moved out. In September, I'll supposedly start university, so I'll only be living with my grandfather for the next few months. School officially ended, and I had my high school graduation a few days ago. My prom date was my boyfriend, the football player friend I mentioned in my last update. I just wanted to share this little happy detail before diving into what happened with my parents and sister. After my altercation with my sister, I received a message from my parents 2 days later saying they had made a decision. They're going to let my sister continue living with them because, in their words, I'm not the kind of person they want around her. They claimed I've always been jealous and mean-spirited. They admitted the only reason they wanted me back was for my grandfather's financial support. But my mother's older brother decided to step in as an investment partner for their business, so they no longer needed his help. They also made it clear they didn't want me around ever again. I'm pretty sure they thought this would hurt me, but since I already knew their true intentions, the revelation didn't affect me at all. I didn't even bother responding to their message. I guess my lack of response upset them because they sent another message a few hours later, saying they were now going to block me. They called me horrible, heartless, violent, and ungrateful. They labeled me violent because I slapped my sister the other day, conveniently ignoring that she provoked and attacked me first. In fact, I don't think they even know about the attack because my sister likely didn't mention it. They called me ungrateful because after all they had supposedly done for me, I still had the audacity to act as though they were bad parents. They pointed out how they raised me, spent money on feeding me, sending me to school, and clothing me. Honestly, I don't understand why some parents bring these things up as if it's a favor. Those are basic responsibilities, not extraordinary acts. But I guess in my parents' opinion, doing the bare minimum means I should worship them. I wanted to reply to this nonsense, but decided it wasn't worth my time. So, before they could block me, I blocked them first. Now that's done. My grandfather and I are living happily. I've been accepted into many universities of my choice, though I'm still waiting to hear back from a few top ones. My grandfather will cover all expenses as he promised. We're still working on strengthening our relationship because I occasionally get upset with him for not taking me out of my parents' house earlier, but at least he's trying to make up for it now. He must have had his limitations, and I know he deeply regrets not being able to help me when I needed it most. We're figuring it out together, and I'll never have to deal with my parents alone again. Hopefully, they'll never contact me again either. Update 4. It's been a full year since my last update. Thank you so much for all the lovely comments and supportive messages. I'm doing very well now. From what I know, my entire family has cut ties with my parents and sister. My mom's side of the family is still in contact with them, but thanks to my grandfather, no one on my dad's side talks to them anymore. Most people didn't know how I was being treated because I never talked about it. But after my grandfather started telling people that he was no longer in contact with my parents, they began to learn the truth about why we had this falling out. My parents ended up being shunned by the family. I don't think they have anyone to blame for this but themselves. So, yeah, karma, I guess. I have no idea what my sister is doing now, but I've heard from a few people that she finally moved out and started living independently last week. Honestly, that's what reminded me to post this update. My boyfriend and I are still going strong. We see each other on weekends because I go home often. My university is pretty close. I've made a lot of friends here and genuinely feel like a completely new person. My grandfather and I have also worked through our issues, and we're closer than ever. He's my favorite person in the entire world, and I don't think anything will ever change that. He's made mistakes in the past, but who hasn't? I've forgiven him, and we've moved forward together. So, yeah, I'm really happy now. Thank you all again.